it feels a little bit like Groundhog's Day today on the show because I'm going to press the button. We're going to do the daily special, and it's going to be about a Diamondback starter that couldn't finish 3 innings.
Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
The Diamondbacks rallied for 3 in the 7th, 2 in the 8th to tie things up at 8 in Milwaukee. But the Brewers walked it off. Isaac Collins with the sacrifice fly. Brewers blew a 6-run lead. Didn't matter. They found a way to win. The Diamondbacks show the fight. They show that answer back mentality. I'll tell you what, Producer Evan, if we wanted to be more optimistic maybe to start the show today, there's probably some room to have a conversation that when I look here in the box score and I look at all the players that had key hits for the Diamondbacks in that comeback, it's Moreno, it's Perdomo, it's Marte, it's Carroll, it's Perdomo again. It's those same 4 guys that we keep talking about when looking ahead towards 2026 and beyond. But you got to start with the guy that dug this team the hole. The guy who went 2 2/3, allowed 6 earned runs, 8 hits, the 1 walk, and the 4 strikeouts. We've got to start today's show discussing the performance from Brandon Pfaadt. Because it was just yesterday here on these airwaves in front of this microphone that we talked about another starter for the Arizona Diamondbacks that did not give them length, that could not get through 3 innings. And what did we say about that starter? Look, you're stuck with Eduardo Rodriguez for the next 2 years. You've got half of that deal still left. You're going to have to figure out a way to make him a useful pitcher for you in some capacity. Find a way for him to create some level of value for you. Well, today, it's a similar conversation, but I think it could be a little more frustrating because this is a guy that the Diamondbacks extended, gave a long-term contract to. This is a guy that the Diamondbacks, in many ways, counting on, alongside Ryan Nelson, to chart the course forward. Merrill Kelly, gone, traded, free agent at the end of the year in Texas. Don't know if a reunion is going to happen. Zach Allen, free agent at the end of the year, probably will slap the qualifying offer on him. Who knows what his future in this town looks like. We do know Ryan Nelson's going to be here next year. We do know Brendan Pfaadt is going to be here next year. Those are the 2 guys that you are looking at right now. You've got some young pitchers that could potentially join them and help as early as next season. But those are the 2 guys that have pitched at the big league level and have at times shown you what you need to see to think those guys could lead a rotation or at least be at the front part of a rotation, the 1, 2, or 3 spots. Brendan Pfaadt showed you that he could be that type of pitcher earlier this year. Because let's jump back in the time machine and let's go to April. Because I can remember the conversations we were having about Brendan Pfaadt and his start to the year, end of April into May. He had a 2.43 ERA in the month of April. Out of his first 6 starts, 5 of those 6, he gave the Diamondbacks at least 6 innings. And in the 1 start he didn't, he went 5 2/3. He was a model of consistency. 6 innings, 3 runs, quality start against Chicago to start the year. 6 innings, 4 earned runs against Washington. 6 scoreless against Baltimore early in the year. 5 2/3, 1 run allowed against Miami. Against Tampa, 6 innings, 1 earned run. Against the Braves, 6 innings, 2 earned runs allowed. He was just great. He was what you need Brandon Pfaadt to be. Guy that's going to go out there, take the ball, give you 6 strong. And oh, by the way, the Diamondbacks 5-1 in his first 6 starts of the season. And something changed. Because he had an 8.1 ERA in May. He had a 6.26 ERA in June. He was a little better in July, a 4.35 ERA in July. A 5.81 ERA so far in the month of August. And he had kind of found some stability before the blow-up last night against Milwaukee. So what's going wrong? What happened to the guy that we were all watching through his first 6 starts of the year? What happened to that pitcher? What has led to a guy who overall has got a 5.24 ERA? Has not been very good as of late. an ERA near 6 in the month of August. What happened? What went wrong? Well, I did the thing this morning.
I'm a huge nerd.
I went into the weeds, and I looked at every single pitch that Brendan Pfaadt has thrown this season. I looked at his four-seam fastballs. I looked at his sinker. I looked at his entire arsenal. And I looked at what teams were hitting against all of those pitches. And then I got a little more nerdy.
I'm a huge nerd.
I looked at the pitching run value for every single one of his pitches. So all of his four-seamers, that's the pitch he's thrown the most this year, 26% of the time. That pitch has a run value. Positive number means it's a good pitch. That means it is generating value for your team. If it's a negative, you're generating value for the other team. So I did the math. So we'll start with the numbers that you're more used to, the average. What teams are hitting against these pitches? Against his four-seamer this year, the pitch he throws the most, 26% of the time, they're hitting 279 against that pitch. How about his sinker? The pitch he throws second most, 23% of the time. A 290 average against that sinker. A sweeper, that's the third pitch that he offers and throws nearly 20% of the time. Teams are hitting 281 against that pitch. His next three pitches, his change, his curve, and his cutter, he doesn't utilize them as much, but they do have a value. His changeup, they're hitting 276 against his changeup this year. They're hitting 375 against his curveball. And his cutter, which he only throws 7% of the time, teams are hitting 226 against that pitch. Now, I'll get a little nerdy on you. I'll give you the pitching run value. Remember, negative bad, positive good. His four-seamer, the pitch he throws the most, -4 run value. His sinker, second most utilized pitch, a run value of 3. In fact, that's his second best pitch in his arsenal. His sweeper, a -7 run value this season. Don't worry, it somehow gets worse. The change, a -2. The curve, which he throws 9% of the time, a -10 this year in run value. Pairs up very nicely with the 375 average that teams are hitting against that pitch. And his cutter, it's his best pitch, a pitching run value of 4 this season with, again, the best average against 226. So his pitch he throws the most is four-seam. They're hitting to a near 280 batting average, and it is his third worst pitch. He still has elite command, has an elite walk rate, 93rd percentile walk rate. He's getting hit harder this year. The hard hit rate, the barrel rate, all up from where they were a year ago. He's not getting guys to chase as much as he was last year. Those are the things that stick out to me when you look under the hood and you look at some of the advanced numbers to try to figure out what's going on here. Maybe don't throw your curve 9% of the time when it's getting hit to the tune of a 375 batting average. When players hit the curve, they're prime Aaron Judge, they're prime Barry Bonds, they're prime Ted Williams. Perhaps we throw that instead of 9%, maybe 0% should be the right answer here, but maybe we throw out 1 or 2% as just a different offering that we mix in. And how about that cutter? That's our best pitch by every metric, the batting average against, the pitching run value. Why don't we use that more? Especially against left-handed batters. Let's jam that cutter inside. I'm trying to piece together what could be changed here in the offseason to get Brendan Pfaadt back on track because you paid him. You gave him a contract extension. You believe that he can be a part of your next rotation that is pitching in the postseason. Not this version. Not the version that we've seen this year. Not the guy that pitched last night. And Brendan Pfaadt is still a young starter where I believe that you can make more tweaks to his arsenal. You can mess with the dials a little bit. You can say, hey, we're going to throw the four-seam less. We're going to throw the sinker more. We're going to take the curve completely out. We're going to throw in more of the cutter. And you can change the percentages of when you're using these pitches, and perhaps it can lead to better results. Because if you just look at this, you would say, hey, throw your sinker and your cutter more. Those are your two best pitches. Well, if those are the only two pitches that you're throwing, teams are going to make an adjustment to that. You still need to have an arsenal. And I still think his change can work. I would get rid of the curveball. That pitch does not seem to have any sort of feel to it at all right now. But if you want to still throw the sinker and the four-seam, but have the sinker be your primary fastball offering and the four-seam is just a different shape off of that as a secondary, I would advocate for that. But these numbers are telling you, they're telling you a very interesting picture. They're telling you that 2 of the 3 pitches that Brendan Pfaadt throws the most are providing immense value to the other team. In fact, all 3 of those pitches, the worst average against the 3 pitches he throws the most is the 279 average for his 4-seam. That's the pitch he throws the most. So he's not walking guys. He's filling up the strike zone. But guess what? Guys know what's coming. They're okay with what's coming, and they're crushing what's coming. 4-seam, sinker, sweeper. If you leave that sweeper in the zone, it's going to get crushed. If you miss with your 4-seam and your sinker, or it's just flat and you leave it middle, big league hitters are going to catch up to that stuff.
There's 2 things that are just glaring. One, he just never feels like he has a hitter off balance, and hasn't in months. Not since April. Are you like, wow, I feel like he has at least one hitter in the lineup off balance?
Well,
you watched last night. It was nobody. Nobody got buckled even for a single pitch.
Let's pull on that thread. What creates that environment for a hitter? You don't know what's coming, or you're guessing up there, right? You have to respect a certain off-speed offering. You have to respect that lights-out breaking ball, that thing that's going to spin, or I've got to spit on this pitch so that he throws the sinker inside. You've got to have that secondary offering that makes these hitters think twice in that box. He doesn't have that. What pitch that I mentioned in his arsenal that he's thrown this year is that secondary offering that's forcing these hitters to respect it, to where maybe, because if you throw a really great sweeper or slider or a curveball and the hitters know that it's coming, they have to respect your fastball a little more. They have to respect your sinker a little more, because they have to respect those pitches. They have to respect your primaries. And so what happens is sometimes you can catch them napping and you can sneak a fastball by them, because depending on the count, they're expecting you to throw a curve. They're expecting you to throw that sweeper, and they've got to be ready for it because it's a good pitch. Boom, you can sneak one at 94 inside on them and catch them napping. But you can only do that if there's that respect level. If batters have to make the adjustment to a sweeper or a curveball or a changeup. Those are 3 of his worst pitches this season. Of his 6-pitch arsenal, those 3, the curve they're hitting 375 against, the sweeper they're hitting 281 against, the changeup they're hitting 276 against.
There's not a bad average in there.
No, the best average he's got against is the 226 average on his cutter, and that's the pitch he throws the least. So there's kind of a chicken and the egg thing that you can talk about there. Is that average because they're just not seeing it enough? And if he threw it more, they may be able to hit it better. I don't know.
Given how the other numbers line up, you would have to assume that's what it is.
You would be worried a little bit about if he tried to throw that cutter a little bit more, that perhaps they would just see it better. But I see that stick out to me, that it's his best pitch from a run value perspective. They're hitting the worst against it. And I would say, hey, maybe instead of 7%, can we throw that 10%? Can we just mix that in a little bit more to see what it does? To see if that changes.
Worth a chance, right?
How they respect the sinker. Because now, if he throws that cutter a little bit more, I've got to respect the 4-seamer that's flat. And I mean that not in a bad way, just one that doesn't move. A sinker that's going to move into a righty away from a lefty. And then I've got a cutter that's going to move into the lefty away from the righty. So if I'm in that box, there are 3 different fastballs that can go 3 different directions. And not to get super nerdy on everybody, but if you're tunneling on all 3 of those pitches, the way you're throwing them is the same arm slot, the same release point every time, it's going to be impossible for a hitter to pick up on that. It just doesn't feel like he has any of those things working for him right now. Hence, 2 2/3 last night, 6 runs allowed, the home run, and a guy who, after having a fantastic start to the year over his first 6 starts, has been anything but since. Those first 6 starts, better than Zach Gallen, better than Corbin Burns when he was off to his slow start.
There was a buy or sell that I threw out there that was, I would rather have Brandon Pfaadt right now on the mound than anybody else at the beginning of the season.
And that was when he was in that middle of that run where it was just rinse, repeat. Brandon Pfaadt, 6 innings. Next start, Brandon Pfaadt, 6 innings. Not just 6 innings, but 6 innings, chance to win the baseball game. Just every single time out.
It felt like a consistent hand that would take the mound every 5th day. You have completely lost that. They don't have a single person in the rotation that I think every night in gives them a chance to win.
This sport is built on pitching. You can have the best offense in the world, and we think this offense is pretty good. You saw it again from them last night in their ability to come back. You got to have the pitching up front. You have to have starters that give you a chance. And for 2 straight days, this rotation hasn't given them a chance. And I don't want to overreact to a game in August when the season is what it is and the season is over. But the guys that started the last 2 days are, when we did the exercise yesterday, 2 of the 3 starters that we said are guaranteed to be in this rotation next year. You need better from those guys because we know you have 2 holes that you're going to need to fill in that rotation before we even throw a pitch in spring training. You've got work to do, either free agency or a young arm in the organization down in the minors that's going to get called up. You've got 2 holes already. Don't add to that problem with 2 guys who don't give you a chance to win. By the way, in doing this research, do you know the best pitch in the big league roster? Ryan Nelson's fastball. The best overall single individual pitch from a pitching run value perspective. 16.
Wow.
So Ryan,
who would have guessed that at the beginning of the year,
Ryan
right?
Nelson, throw your fastball.
Who would have guessed out of all the pitchers on this team, who would have guessed that Ryan Nelson's fastball would have been metrically been the best pitch in the organization?
Yeah, I mean, assuming that Corbin Burns would have made 30-plus starts this year or would have been here the entire season, you would have guessed that it would have been something of his arsenal. But yeah, Ryan Nelson, that fastball has been very, very good this year.